So good morning. So I am having Giselle join us today. We're going to paint again on some little 4x4s, and I'm going to break out these. These are wrapped canvases. Before we were doing them on little boards. So this is one we did on Wednesday, and I believe that one was Mondays. And these are canvas boards, just to kind of give you an indication of the supplies we're using. They're thin, they're inexpensive, but they're super. It's the same material. It's still canvas. But they're just really easy to have around because you can order them in like a whole little pack. And then these, I've actually, I have a few of these in the studio, so we are going to use the wrapped canvases today. All right, so I'm gonna pop this onto the easel and let's get started. We've got our brushes. So we probably don't need this large one, but maybe just for covering the canvas with our underpainting. So today I am drinking coffee. I usually drink tea, so I hope you have something fun to drink. And I'm going to, these are our really old paint bottles, but I use them in the studio. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of brown. And Giselle's getting some water cups, and we are going to start with a little bit of a brown underpainting.
Here we go.
Okay, so let's see, we're going to just take our little brown and paint our underpainting. What should we paint, Giselle?
I do not know.
Giselle's having a hot cocoa this morning. Nice healthy breakfast. So one little tip too about canvases. So I'm noticing this canvas is kind of baggy.
Yeah, can I just spray the back of this?
Yeah. And what you can do if your canvas is loose, so here's a cool little demo. So just spray the back. I will even put it into
Is it good or?
a little bit more because there's not that much showing. I mean, there we go. So you just wet the back of it, and now I will even put mine under the faucet and just run water on the back and dump the water out. And what's going to happen is the canvas is going to tighten up right away. It tightens up like a drum. If it doesn't work while it's dry, then what you can actually do is,
Even after you're finished, it still works.
the painting can be completely dry like tomorrow, and you can also just dip it in water and then just hang it out to dry, and it will dry and tighten it up. That works whether the painting is brand new or whether the painting is completely
There's some water on my
finished.
canvas now.
Yeah, and this will also help the canvas stay a little wet longer. So these are our new studio pads here, and it's paper towel and surface in one. So we are just wiping our brushes right out onto the mat here. There we go. All right, so we're gonna let this dry, and in the meantime, we should look at some fun things to paint. This is an abstract flower painting that Pat made. It's on the calendar actually for when we start up the classes again. So while these are drying, I'm going to show you a little fun thing that I do when I want to draw. So this is my sketch pad, one of my sketch pads, and I try and have a sketch pad with me most places that I go so that I can do some fun sketches. Like I did these sketches at a dog show a year or so ago. Let's see what else is in here.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I did a little cartoon drawing of, so this is Miles. I did a little study of him this is a few years ago. And then I did a little caricature of him for fun, his cute ears. But I also love to do like little doodles. Let me see if I have anything in here. No, I don't. So
I think I have my sketchbook down here too.
I want to show you. Can you grab me a marker in there? Grab me my black set of markers.
Oh yes.
So while this is drying it for another minute or two, let's just do a little sketch. So this is a set of drawing pens. You don't need anything as fancy. You can just use a pencil. But I had to buy these for a project, so I'm going to take out these are Micron pens. They're waterproof, and I love them because when you draw with them, then you can also paint over them with watercolor and they don't bleed. All right, so we can make a little sketch here first of our drawing, of our painting. So because the painting is small, we don't want to get into anything that's super tiny and detailed, just things that are a little larger. Miss what you're painting on and what you put it on. Okay, so Marianne, this painting is on a little canvas. This is a wrapped canvas, but you can also use a little canvas board. It's a little 4x4.
I'm going to readjust this.
And we're going to do a little, I'm going to show you a sketch first because I want you to keep in mind that you can always do a thumbnail of a drawing first to get an idea of what you're going to paint. Don't just jump into your painting and expect it to turn out fabulous unless you've practiced it on paper first, unless you've studied your subject matter and got your composition down. So if I do a little dragonfly, I can have the dragonfly flying up. So I'm going to put my little body here. And the wings kind of off to the side here. And this is just a light sketch, just to kind of get a feel for what I want to paint. And maybe the composition of my flowers. So I'm going to put some flowers in here. And now Pat already painted this painting, and so I have some techniques that are already done. It's not as experimental, but I do like to use these little canvases also as an experimental canvas because they're so small, and they're great to use if you want to try out a small painting first, just to get down some of the colors, some of the techniques, and then move into a larger canvas when you have played around with your supplies a little bit. So I would really recommend, if you paint at home, to have a couple of these little canvases, because if you're really going to make a painting, you need to plan it out. You need to do some sketches, you need to plan on your composition, and even play around with some of the colors if you're new to painting and you want to, and even if you're not new to painting, it gives you a little miniature version so that you can play around with your paints before you move to a larger canvas. Okay, so our canvases are nice and dry. All right, so Gisele, bring your canvas back. And we're going to move into what? Looks good?
Oh yeah, it was all centered before.
Okay. So now we're going to get some paints on our palettes. So we're using our little foam plates. So we need a little bit of green. There you go. Some yellow. It's barely closing. We definitely need some blue. And white. Ooh, this white's really low. Okay, you only need a little dab of paint for these paintings because they're so tiny. There we go. All right. I'm gonna stick this in here so it stays upright. And then we're going to use a little bit of bright red for our flowers. So I'm going to stick the bright red over to the side so we don't get it mixed in on accident. Anyone else joining us?
We have 11 people.
Good morning, everybody.
Oh, someone asked acrylics or watercolors.
Okay, so these are acrylic paints, and they're a fluid acrylic, and by that you can see how they kind of puddle on your palette. These are Blick acrylic paints from Blick Art Supplies, and I have used Blick paints for 8 years now. I feel that I've gotten to know them fairly well, and that I can pretty much achieve whatever I want to with these student high quality, but they are kind of a learning grade paint. I aspire to one day replace all my fluid paints with golden. I love golden, is one of my favorite painting brands. When I do a really nice painting that I'm going to, do as a commission, I try to use my golden paints or Liquitex, but these I always paint with Art Rave paintings, the Blick acrylic. So I think that's just a great example how amazing paintings can be done with any paint. In fact, I did a painting, a personal painting with only Art Rave paints, which are these Blick acrylics, and I absolutely love it. It's hanging in my bathroom upstairs. All right, so we're going to do Pat's little painting over here, and I will show it again in case you missed it. So we're going to do a little miniature version. This is a 10 by 20, so see, it's really long and horizontal. And what we're going to do is we're going to do an abstract background, really messy grass, and even messier flowers, and then we're going to paint a little dragonfly. So, and then we're going to add all these little fun dots and splashes and everything. So I love this painting. I think it's so pretty. And we are going to have this in our classes also when our classes start back up again in a couple months. All right, so to start off with the background, I am going to use this small flat brush, and we're just going to mix a white, and I think I might I don't think Pat did a brown underpainting on her canvas actually, but that's okay. We're just going to do ours with a brown underpainting. I started the brown underpainting before I decided what I was going to paint. So I'm just going to paint. I'm going to do it vertical. That looks like what Pat did.
Okay.
Yeah, just jump in, Giselle. Can you get it?
Hardly.
Okay. I'll come this side. All right, so I'm going to just paint this white. And I want to have it nice and loaded with paint and wet because it'll help my colors to blend. And these are just a fun painting. You have to get into that mode where you really just think like, that's okay, whatever happens, happens. And that makes it a lot more fun. So I'm gonna mix a little bit of this yellow and green, make it nice and bright. I don't want it too vivid. I want it to be very pale. So I'm tinting it with more white. And I'm just going to start brushing that in there. It's very yellowy. But when I start mixing blue in, it's going to change. Like an Easter egg. You don't know what you're going to get. So I'm painting long-handled here so that I don't get my hand in front of the camera. It gives me a lot less accuracy and very cool. All right, so I'm going to just work on getting a little bit more blue in there. That's a lot more blue. Whoopsie. And if you get too much blue or you want to tone it down a little bit, just grab some white. Put some white over the top. Now I don't want my whole canvas to turn blue, so I'm going to stop there. And I'm just going to leave it. Because whatever goes, goes. Okay. So super cute. I think we're gonna need the little teeny tiny brushes, the little small ones. You know, there's the smaller ones than these round.
There is?
Yeah. I'm gonna have you run and get some. They're either in the by the sink where we washed them last, or they're in that little tray. Ooh, I like yours, Giselle. That looks so pretty. So Giselle is 12. So if she can paint this, then you can certainly paint it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna add a little bit more yellow to mine. Streak it. So this is kind of an abstract background right now. And we're just messing it up, making it nice and soft in the colors with lots of white. And then you're gonna just wipe off your brush and give it a good rinse. Now we're gonna let this dry for a few minutes. When you're painting in acrylic, when you wanna blend it, you want it to be wet so that you have this wet on wet look. But when you're gonna be layering an acrylic paint, you really want that layer to dry so that the paints that you're adding aren't mixing with what's on the canvas. So by letting this dry, we can paint the grass, and the grass will stand out much better. It won't blend into our background. So we have to let this dry for a couple seconds until we can get some of our grasses and stems on. All right, now there's two ways where you can make something skinny. You can either use a flat brush and turn it sideways, and then you can use it like this, where you're kind of flicking up, or you can use a pointy round brush. It depends on your brush and it depends on your preference. So is your flat brush flat?
It is not.
Okay, so let me just show this. So this is a newer brush, and you can see when I turn it sideways, it's nice and skinny. This one is an older brush, and it is not going to flatten out like that. When I pinch it, it just fluffs back up again, and you see you don't get that sharp edge.
Here, just use this.
So that's not going to work. You can use this one. So then the alternative is a pointy brush like this one. So this one's got a nice pointy tip. So I'll let Giselle use the pointy tip one, and I'll use the flat brush. So here, Giselle, stick this in front of the space heater really quickly.
Okay.
So if you want to speed dry your paintings, just stick them in front of a space heater or hit them with a blow dryer. So what brush? This is it's one of our Art Rave brushes that is a size 10 bright, and you can see it's very flat. Yeah, so these are considered student grade paints. I mean, you know, they have like professional, student grade. I would say these would probably be in the student grade category. But Blick makes a great quality paint. And like I said, I've been painting with it for 8 years. And I've painted over 400 paintings with the same 11 colors and haven't changed it yet. So we're definitely comfortable with these paints, and for consistency's sake, I think it's much easier to use your favorite colors. And when you're painting for yourself, go crazy, try all different colors. But if you use certain colors, you start to really know how to mix them. And we've achieved that over the years. So, all right, so you see how it got a little darker when we dried them, and that happens sometimes, especially since we have our brown underpainting. So for the stems, now we want the stems to stand out, so we're going to use a slightly darker shades, keeping our limited palette. We've got just our blue, cobalt blue, chrome yellow, and green oxide. So I'm going to use a little bit of blue and green, and that's going to make a nice slightly darker bluer green. And then I'm going to hold my brush vertical rather, and I'm just going to start flicking up and getting a bunch of different stems and leaves. So I'm doing them at different heights because I want some variety in the heights. I am keeping in mind that my dragonfly is going to go here, so I'm going to kind of keep that area a little bit more open. So I'm doing a couple with blue-green, and then I'm going to jump into my yellow. Now I have a green here that's already pre-mixed, but I can also make a green with a little bit of yellow and blue. So I'm going to get a yellowy green, and let's see, I'm gonna get that nice and yellow, and I'm going to use just a tiny touch of brown just so that it kind of stands out against the background a little bit. That's a really pretty, it's like a chartreuse. It's gorgeous. My hand's not blocking. Okay, so some are fat, some are thin. That's totally fine. And I'm gonna maybe come in and do a couple more dark ones near the bottom. So the bottom is where, of course, it's gonna be more dense. So I'm gonna just get a little bit more paint down there. How you doing, Giselle? You having fun?
Yes.
Adorable. Okay, so Giselle is finishing hers on the bottom, her grasses. Okay, so we want this to dry before we start in with our flowers because we don't want to smear our grasses when we do the flowers. So I'm going to show the painting again. Let me move my water cup so I don't knock that down. So here's our painting inspiration, painted by Pat Gipple. And you can see we have our abstract background. We've got our grasses. And she's got these messy flowers that she actually did with a paper towel. Now that's going to be challenging for us because our canvas is so tiny.
Yeah.
But I'm up for the challenge. We're going to just make our paper towel really tiny. So they're done with the paper towel first, so you get this nice blurry, messy flower. And then she kind of came back with a brush and added some little added details. All right, so let's get a little paper towel. All right, so we're gonna take this paper towel and we're gonna make our own little brush. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna roll it like a cigarette, very tiny. Usually we do them kind of large. I think like when Pat did it, of course, she just went like this and had about that big. We're gonna make ours even tinier. So.
Like this?
Yeah, but have the tip be wrinkly. So I'm gonna really kind of twist it and get it like a little tiny one so we can make little tiny flowers. Alrighty, so I'm gonna dampen, I wanna get this a little bit wet because I want to have a slightly blurry flower first. So squeeze it out and then we have to just rearrange again. So you can use all kinds of materials to create a painting mark. And paper towels have also become one of our go-tos because they're a lot of fun and versatile. So there's my little tip. It's about the size of my finger because I'm going for a flower about that big. All right. So I'm gonna first mix a little bit of pink. I don't wanna dip right into my red. I'm gonna mix a little pink. And I'm going to dip into this pile. So that's the color I'm going for. gonna take my little paper towel here and I'm just gonna dip it in here. So I get that little tip. And then what we do is we just hit the canvas and we just give it a little twist. Mine looks like little kissy marks. You gotta rearrange your paper towel to get different marks. Nice. You can also dip into white and do some white ones. You want to go low and high. Oh, that's so cute. It's so fun. So I am dipping a little in my red now. So I'm going to try and get a little bit more red down here. Ooh, that's very red. And I'm looking at my composition here. I want to make room for my dragonfly, but I want to have my flowers also be in a variety of heights and up and down. We don't want it to be perfectly spaced, and we don't want them to be all the same height. So I'm gonna put maybe one up here to kind of random. Okay, so that's all I'm gonna do with the paper towel. I'm gonna let that dry a little bit before I come in with my little, see now I need a tiny brush to add the little details on top. Now we can add the little brush strokes right on the top of this. So I'm going to take my red, and with just the tip of my brush, I'm just going to add a couple little extra brush strokes. What this is going to do, it gives variety to our flowers because we have a thin flower, and then we're going to have some that are a little bit more defined. So we want to have like a blurry, messy flower, as well as some that are a little more distinct. And the paint can be a little thicker. And I think that gives a nice variation so that you don't have just all these little blurry ones that make it look a little unfinished. So I'm just taking a couple little dabs. Here and there's a little bud. So I don't need a ton. I like the variety of some. It's hard to stop yourself on the small canvas because you want to keep going. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flowers that I've added paint to. And I want to have no more than that because I want the other ones to be left blurry. Okay? And you can add some little random little dots. You don't need to have them all in flowers. Just have some little messy dots. I'm thinking a couple little white, some red. Okay, and now we're going to jump into our little dragonfly. Okay, so the dragonfly is going to be, again, the same colors, but this time you need to have the dragonfly stand out. So we're going to have some areas of the dragonfly that are kind of dark, and then some that are white. So we can get him nice and high contrast so he pops out against our background. So can you give me one of those tiny brushes too, Giselle, from the cup over there?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to use this pointy brush also. This is a number 2 round, but keep in mind that the sizes of paints, they're kind of, brushes, they're kind of like blue jeans. Depends on the brand to what size. Like this might be a size 1 or a size 4 in different brands, but for this particular brush, it's a size 2 round. Okay, so for my dragonfly, I'm going to mix the colors. I want to have him be kind of a teal. So I am going to mix blue and green. And the blue and green by itself is pretty dark, but I'm going to add a tiny bit of brown just to kind of deepen it up a little bit. And I'm going to have him pointing up like my sketch. So if you weren't here earlier, I did a little compositional sketch, and that's sort of what I'm going to be doing as far as his position. And I'm going to start off with his head, just really kind of messy. And I don't, see, I'm holding this really far back on my brush. You can, and that's for two reasons. One, I don't want my hand to block Giselle's painting. And two, it's actually going to make it more difficult for me to create a perfect dragonfly. I want him to look a little messy. So I'm holding my brush really far back and just using small brush strokes. Purposely keeping it kind of loose. And then for his wings, I'm going to come out from his face. Get one little wing. The other wing. So this is kind of like my light sketch, so I'm just going to get really light in here, and I'm going for a loose look here. Now, near his body, you can put a little bit more shadow, so I'm going to put these darks in just a little bit more towards his body. And I have, so if you don't know me or my background, I am an illustrator. So I have my degree in illustration, which means I do draw very tight and I can draw very realistic. But this is a great exercise in taking a moment to just allow yourself to have fun and enjoy painting something that's loose and kind of messy. It really does, I think, help to sort of improve your creative process when you can allow yourself to go both ways and be a little messy sometimes. So I'm mixing a lime green because I'm going to highlight the wings with some lime in the middle here. So down the main part of his wings, I'm going to put a little bit of this chartreuse. And maybe I'll just add a little of this to his body as well. And then I'm just going to jump right into white. And I want it to sort of look like, I need to get nice and bright so he stands out, but I also want to kind of give the illusion of sections. You know how they have like those little sections of delicate wings. So we're going to give a little highlight to his head, a little to his body with some white. And see, the messiness of the dragonfly, it fits with the messiness of the painting. So it just kind of goes together. So let's see, maybe I'll add a little bit of I'm going to surprise this color palette with something that I've been mixing the blue only with the greens and getting teal. So now I'm going to just do a straight light blue, which is just going to be the cobalt. I'm just going to go cobalt and white. And because there's so much green on my painting, this is actually going to really stand out. So I'm going to get nice and light. And I'm going to put some little blue marks on his wing here too. And you can keep painting away at this guy for quite a while to get all kinds of variations. And even though it's a small space, a lot of tiny brush strokes will just make it look like you spent so much more time on it. Just gives it more interest. And it's just fun to keep going, actually. Oh, just that looks adorable. And then just to kind of add some additional interest, I'm going to add some little white baby's breath flowers around. Big and small, just smash them in there. So these are like little wildflowers. Okay, there you go. There's our little morning inspiration. And Giselle and I are gonna stay in the studio and work on a kids painting together for Art Rave in a Box. We're gonna be painting a clownfish today. So I hope you guys enjoyed your little painting, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll talk to you later.